Hey everyone, it's Justine, and I'm super excited to be a part of the question and answer that I have. I was a part of the KonMari method that I just tried out in the classroom. I'm going to move them a little bit more centered. There we go. So I had mentioned in my 3-part series that I recently created on my YouTube channel that I would do a question and answer, and I would answer your questions about what you had when I was organizing my craft room using the KonMari method. And so let's get started. I have a few people joining in now for the question and answer on my craft room organization. I'm going to jump right into it because I find that you can easily just go ahead and rewatch it if you're joining in a little bit later. So hi everyone, hi Laura, hi to so many of you that I see popping up here in the feed. I'm so excited for you to join me. Gonna get started on the questions right now. So where do you get the bags that you keep your stamps in was one of my questions. So I think you're referring to the stamp pockets that I use. And I use 2 different brands. I find that they're the exact same thing. I use either Avery L or I use My Favorite Things. And for everyone that was asking questions about where I purchased certain things on my video, I have updated the supply list in the video description, so you have all the links there if you want to go back and check that out. So I use stamp pockets from Avery L and My Favorite Things. The reason why I interchange them is I find them to be exactly the same, but also because one offers the extra large stamp pockets, that would be Avery L for the 6x8 stamps, whereas they don't offer the 4x8. And MFT offers the 4x8 but not the 6x8. So I use both, and I link to those in the video description of the craft room description. I find it just helpful to have them all in the same type of pocket, and I find the plastic that stamps come in to not really last that long. It oftentimes gets torn, so I like to put those in the stamp pockets. The next question is, I tried looking through the comments to see if someone had already asked but couldn't see. The plastic folders that hold each color of your cardstock, where do you get those and what's the name of the product and company? So again, I've gone in and listed that in the video description, but I got those at Staples, and they sell them at Office Depot, and all they are heavy pocket folders. So they are heavy duty ones. So I looked in the section where the page protectors are for binders, and I found those, I believe, in a 25 pack. They're heavy duty. They don't clip into a binder. They're just pocket folders. So meaning they open at the top and on the side, and that's it. And that's what I keep my cardstock in. That was asked quite a few times. Where do you get, oh, there we go. I got that one already. The next one is, some of the comments I'm going to include in here are also just comments that I thought were really great comments that I thought really resonated with me, and I thought they were really important to share. The one was, it never ceases to amaze me the amount of materials that stampers can acquire. In the many stamper videos I've watched, it would seem that most are focused on the stuff they have collected and how they store it. And given the number of stamps, inks, pens, and paper they've collected, I also often wonder where they get the hope to use it all. That's why your videos are so refreshing. I would highly recommend them to other crafters. So I'm not here to judge anyone on the amount of stuff that they have. That's not what the KonMari method is about, and that's not what I'm about. Everybody has their hobbies, their niches, and the things that they love and the things that they find joy in, and that's okay. I often find, though, that it is the case that I was having too much stuff that I wasn't using it, and I was feeling guilty about not using it. So that's one of the reasons, and I thought that comment was quite good. The question was, your blending tools for distress oxides, what kind of storage container was it, and do you put anything under the foam pads? Mine leave inky spots where they sit. Can you explain your system, or even better, snap a few pictures for me, please? I would really appreciate it. So you can see an up close of that in my last craft room tour, which is also linked in my KonMari method videos. I use an interdesign container. I believe it's supposed to be a nail polish container maybe, but it has 3 trays all attached, and that's what I keep my blending tools in because they fit all 60 blending tools perfectly. I don't have 60 blending tools anymore because I don't have the 60 colors to really justify that. But yeah, I do enjoy that bin. I don't keep anything underneath because I keep the pads in the same order all the time. But I have seen, I believe it was Jessica Frost Ballas labeled hers, and I believe she maybe put a piece of acetate or something that she could easily just pull out and wash. So that's an idea for you if that bothers you. But overall, it works for me just not having I don't care that there's ink at the bottom because I place the same blending tool on top of the same ink, so it's fine. The next question is, what brush lettering or markers do you like? Everything looks so awesome. And the person also purchased the KonMari method books, which is cool. So the brush lettering, I've tried several different ones. I've tried Kelly Creates pens. I've tried the Tombow Mono ones or the Tombow markers. I've tried the Nouveau brush lettering. I've tried so many. I think the Tombow, I don't even know how to say it, Fudoshenko or something like that are my favorites. I think they give the best control. And I also tried recently at Creativation, Le Pen, L-E-P-E-N. They came out with a sort of brush lettering. It's a very, very thin marker, but I really liked the control I got with that one as well. So I'll be using those. The next comment was, wow, mind-blowing video, makes sense, but I don't know what to choose to purge. I do have a question. When first beginning to make a card, do you go to each place and pick things out you'll need to bring back over to your desk? I'd love to see you create from the get-go, not just the neat and tidy video, which is wonderfully polished, professional, inspiring. I tend to keep everything in reach, either on one of the 4 tables that I sit in the midst of, as well as the floor near me, and just recently moved my colored cardstock away from me, but still in a roll-away cart to be brought close to reach. But seriously, I've always wondered if you create at the desk that you film on, and what does your prep activity look like as you get ready to sit down and create? So that's a really great question, and I'm happy to also film sort of like a time lapse of me creating, me walking around my room to create and how I decide. I think that would be a great idea, so that's a good idea for an upcoming video. I think everybody's different when it comes to how they decide what to create. It is a personal choice and you do whatever works for you. So what I usually do is I usually have a stamp set in mind. So when I get sent something from a company or a stamp that I've personally purchased, I keep them all in a bin for things that I want to use in upcoming videos. So generally what I do is I grab that stamp and I take a look at it and kind of figure out what technique am I going to show off with the stamp set, and then I go collect the supplies. The basic tools that I use, like my Misty and my paper trimmer, I generally keep kind of leaned up against my desk. They never really move or go back in the drawer because I use them every time. I'm glad, Melissa, you think that would be a good idea too for a video. Thank you. So yeah, I have my Catherine Pooler inks right in front of me, as you saw from my Craftroom tour, and my Gemini Junior die cutting machine is there as well. So I'm ready to die cut, I'm ready to ink and stamp, and I have my Misty and my trimmer right there. So then usually I look at my stamp, determine what kind of technique or video I'm going to do, and then I go collect the supplies. And I find it even easier now because everything is in a tray or in a little box. So if I know I'm embossing, I just kind of like grab my little embossing box and I bring it over to my area. So that's how I generally do it. So Justine, thank you so much for making these 3 videos. There was a comment from the first video that addressed the issue of feeling guilty for having spent money on many products that we haven't or rarely used, and finding it hard to let them go. I too suffer with this feeling. Every day I see or don't see these items, but know they're buried somewhere. I feel the guilt. In your response, you said something very profound that really, really struck me. And I really wanted to share this with you. Not that I'm a profound philosopher or anything like that, but I did think it was some decent advice. She said, or I said, the money that has already been spent on those items, maybe you can recoup some of that from selling the items. And it may relieve some of the guilt, but don't you feel more guilty when you see these items every day and you're not using them? So I'm glad that someone resonated with that. So that's generally my philosophy. I mean, a general comment that I saw lots on these videos was, I'd love to purge, but I feel guilty because I spent my money on this. And in my opinion, if you've spent your money on it and you haven't used it, it's probably making you feel even more guilty that it's sitting there not being used. So yeah, it's kind of like a lose-lose situation, or maybe a win-win situation, depending how you look at it. I feel guilty when I see it sitting there and it's not being used, so I'd rather it go to someone who's going to use it. And in my opinion, that's better than, I know I've spent the money. And so in my opinion, it's more like, how am I going to spend my money more wiser on craft supplies, or more wisely? And I really think that in the beginning, that's the hardest part to figure out, what you're going to buy. And yeah, exactly. So one of the biggest struggles has to do with craft supplies, especially wooden stamps. I inherited a huge amount, at least 1,000. There's nowhere I would use them, and I have to get rid of them. So in my opinion, if wooden stamps don't bring you joy anymore, they, to me, are they take up a lot of space. I have a couple for decoration purposes, but yeah, I mean, you can take the cling part of it off of the wooden block. That's up to you. But yeah, if you feel guilty because you've inherited these things, they don't bring you joy, give them to a friend, bring them to Salvation Army, bring them to a kindergarten, whatever the case is. Don't keep them. It's fine. If you don't feel like they're for you and you feel guilty about it, not using them, whether the person who intended you to have them, I know you inherited them, so they might have some sentimental value, but I'm pretty sure that person wouldn't want them sitting in boxes in your house either and would have a lot more joy knowing that someone's using them. Hannah says, no guilt. Girl, you've been busy lately. Can't wait to watch the Craftroom tour. How long did it take to complete the entire project? So that was a question I got a lot as well. I would say it took me about 5 days to go through my entire Craftroom, but it was going from morning till night. And that was my bedroom and my Craftroom. So I can't imagine doing an entire house. That would take quite a long time. It took about 2 weeks for me to get everything out of the space though. Everything was organized back that I was keeping, but all the stuff that I was selling or getting rid of, and I was arranging pickup times and mailing things out, it's all done now. That took the longest. Would you split up stamp sets? For example, keep the sentiments and images you like and purge the others in the set. That's a great question as well. And I think that if you are a crafter that crafts for a hobby in your house, and you do this just for fun type thing without a business plan in mind, then that is a great idea. If you want to just toss the others or give them away or whatever, share them with friends, that could work. For me personally, that would not work because I resell my stamps and I don't think anybody would appreciate like half cut out stamps. Yeah, so that's my answer to that one. What laminator did you end up keeping? I need to buy one and wonder what you used. So I've owned 3. I've used a Scotch laminator. I've used a Royal Sovereign, which is the one that ThermoWeb, the king of foiling and companies, recommends. And that one's really quite inexpensive, somewhere between $20 and $30 on Amazon. That worked just fine. Now and again, I would get a little like pin prick of a dot of black on my foil. And then recently I was at Crop and Create and I was helping run one of the classes and I was using the mink. And I've always kind of put down the mink, I feel bad, just because of the price of them. They are pricey and I think, oh, there's just a laminator, you can get one so much cheaper elsewhere. When I used it though, I really did love it in the sense that I didn't find I got any black little spots or anything like that. It generally worked every time, mainly because I think it gives it a tighter squeeze and it is meant for foiling. Now, I'm not encouraging everyone to go out and buy a mink. They are about $100 or more, depending on what size you get. And honestly, the $30 one works just as fine. So that's the one I ended up keeping, though, with the mink. Someone was wishing they could be my neighbor. I thought that was funny. Where do you get your toner foil sheets, the pre-printed ones? You can buy them at Ellen Hudson, scrapbook.com, Simon Says Stamp, and ThermoWeb. ThermoWeb is the company that makes them, and they partner with Gina K Designs and Brutus Monroe, so they'll have them on their websites as well. If you check out any of my foiling videos with the toner sheets, you'll have links there. Can you tell me what containers the sequins are in? I'm very curious. These ones I got from Amazon, and I've now linked to them in my video description of my video with the Craftroom tour. I love those ones. I can't remember what they're called, but they're bead storage, essentially. I can't remember if they were Judkins bead storage or what they were. But anyway, yeah. Nancy Greer asks, can you make your own designs if you have a laser printer? Yes, you can. So if you have a printer that takes toner ink, you can. Give it a try. Print out as normal. You can create them on Microsoft Word or on whatever. You can print out graphics. There's even graphics to buy to foil. I know Christina Warner does. And it definitely works. But there are settings on your toner to make sure it uses more toner on your printer. That if it doesn't give you a good impression the first time, there are ways to do it. Just research it. There's lots of information on that. I don't have one, so I've never done a video on it, but I have printed them off at work a couple times when I've done projects for my students, and it works fine. Someone said, wow, you did wonderfully. I think it's much harder for many of us who need to purchase our supplies. tossing or giving it away is much harder. Thanks for the inspiration. And I just wanted to talk about this for just a quick second, because I think the comment is correct maybe for some people, but some people maybe not. So anyway, the idea of it is that I purged way more than I just did in my recent one before I moved to Europe. I had an idea in mind of how I wanted my space to be, and I also had to ship my things over. So for me, it's not hard when I have a purpose for purging. Many of the products I do use with my own money, as I said as well. All the tools, paper, things like that is generally my own money, inks, all that stuff. So I do know that it can be hard, but overall, I think it's just the type of person you are and how much attachment you have to your things. Next question is, I actually have a question of keeping. Do you have a video showing how you use the bare video using expanding Nouveau Mousse? I do have a video using expanding Nouveau Mousse that's coming out next week. And I had actually created it back in November, and I used a dye that wasn't being released until now. So I had to keep that video under wraps. Barely Beige Friendly ink. I'm not a huge fan of no line coloring because I'm not good at it. It's something I need to practice if I want to get better at it. So I don't have a video of me using it in particular, but Gina K Designs has lots of videos on them, and if you Google it, you'll find definitely lots of tutorials on it. It's simply just a process of stamping so that you can barely see it. It's similar to using antique linen from Tim Holtz, and yeah, so just Google it. You'll find lots of people that can teach you much better things than I can. May I ask where you got the tape dispenser with the orange tape in it? I did ask this person to clarify because I'm not sure what they were talking about. Can I ask what you did with the stamps you purged, looking for ideas? So for me, I have a lot of people that ask me to let them know when I'm selling items. And so what I usually do is create mystery boxes, and then I go ahead and sell those. So I sell stamps and dies because I find there's lots of value still in them, and I try and sell them at a really great price point, at least half price of the retail. I think it's really good for people who are beginners. Anything else I generally find to give away to crafty friends of mine, and things like patterned paper. I found that kindergartens, daycares, schools will generally take them. Kids love patterned paper, so I made it like a thing not to really buy patterned paper much anymore, so I didn't have a lot to get rid of this round. But yeah, so just try and see. Seniors' homes might accept them. Consider maybe doing a class for friends with them. Use up all my stuff, type thing. You could do that. Where are the drawer dividers from? Like the ones you have for your pens, and have you done a video with the We Are Memory Keepers word punch? I haven't done a video with the word punch yet. The drawer dividers I use are from Organize More. I have all the links in my Craftroom tour video, and I absolutely love them. They're perfect for the Alex IKEA drawer without having to waste space from the drawer, so they're perfect. How long did the process take? I answered that one. Did I miss embossing storage? Yes, I store them in those drawer dividers from Organize More. I keep all of my embossing powders usually face down so I can see the powder. Someone said, great series on purging. I don't know how you could get rid of so many stamps and dies. They're the backbone of my card making. Well, if you watch my videos, you know that stamps and dies are the backbone of my card making as well. But in my opinion, you can only use so many of them, and I'm always buying more. So it doesn't really bother me to get rid of most of them. Someone said, thanks, it was a great series. I admire your determination. It was definitely. It took a lot of, I'm one of those people that gets an idea to organize and purge. Like I'll just take everything out of my closet and then I'll get bored halfway through and then leave it on the floor for a couple of weeks. So it did take a lot of determination for me to actually get through it. And I think filming the process helped. So I knew that I had some accountability to get it done, if that made sense. Wow, fabulous job, Justine. Thank you. Sharing so many ways to determining what questions you should be asking yourself in order to decide what to purge. Remember, my questions were, does it bring me joy? And the question also that I have is, am I going to use it? And have I used it? And do I have an idea, at least 3, on how to use it? Sorry, I just noticed my nose was running. That's so gross. This is keeping it real on lives here. Although I'm pretty confident that for those of us who do not have crafting as a business have a much more difficult time in deciding what to go, you have absolutely helped me in many ways. So far, I would say I would cut down my crafty spending by 40% and want to go further. So thank you for sharing that story, Nancy Lynn. It's true. I have cut down my spending as well, and this method is definitely going to help that. And the last question I have today is, if someone was tossing up between Altenew mini ink cubes or Catherine Pooler minis, what would you recommend? So this isn't really to do with the video itself, but I think that person saw that I kept those ones. So if you're looking at mini ink specifically, Altenew has an insane amount of colors, and they come in the gradients, which make it really easy for layering stamping if you like that, and they stamp fairly well. I find when they're stamping on a full image, like a very, very solid image, I do have to stamp it a couple of times using my Misty stamping tool to get a full impression. However, the color range makes up for that small little inconvenience, I guess you could say. So if you have a stamping tool, I would recommend the Altenew in that sense, that they have the good variety of colors, great gradients in the minis. Catherine Pooler's inks, don't think I've been very shy to say that those have been my favorite inks. I think they have the best ink coverage. They are phenomenally vibrant, and I like how I can stamp a new stamp, solid stamp, doesn't matter, and it stamps perfectly from the first time I stamp it. There's no seasoning needed or anything like that. However, the mini inks are only available in 12 colors, and I believe 12 more are coming out this week, so you do have a little bit of a limit in the colors until she comes out with all of them. So if you can be patient, or if you're on a budget and have to divide up your purchases, I definitely would recommend the Catherine Pooler ones. So that's giving you the little pros and cons about each one of them. There's 8 more coming on Wednesday. Sorry, Ardith just corrected me. So yeah, those are coming soon, and they are fantastic inks. So yeah, you can't go wrong really with either one. Just definitely with the Altenew, if you do a lot of solid images, I would just make sure that you have a stamping tool, if that makes sense. All right, I am going to cut this live now, and thank you so much everyone for who've joined me. I hope I answered all your questions. If you leave questions on my YouTube videos, generally I answer 99% of them. I might miss one now and again, so don't feel shy about nudging me and asking again. And thank you so much again for joining me for this whole series of how I changed my craft room and how I craft. And I'm definitely going to get to work on filming that video of me running around my craft room like a little bunny, just to show you how I go through the process of how I come up with a card. Thanks so much.